Hey basketball players, today I'm going to talk to you about how you can turn from a center into a guard. This is something that many players struggle with, especially if they grew very tall very fast, and then later on they turned into a guard because they didn't grow as fast later on. So basically, as a center, you're stuck usually down here in the low post. And when you're transitioning into a guard, you're going to be moving from the low post, which are traditionally essentially close shots that are really close to the rim, into somebody who's going to be handling the ball more, and also somebody who's going to be taking shots from further out. And there's a few different paths that you can take when you're transitioning into a guard. You can take the transition where you're going to be really wanting to handle the ball as much as possible, versus the other route, which is maybe playing off a guard. What I mean by that is, if you're just starting to play point guard, for example, and you were a center before, then your coach might want to stick you in a position where you've got maybe a 2-guard set, so that you're not handling the ball the whole entire time. This is why I always say to younger players, learn every single position, because you never know. You could be 6 feet tall in grade 6 like I was, and then you could be 6'2" in grade 11 and then have to transition into being a guard. So basically how I transitioned into a guard myself was essentially turning into that 2-guard position first. And I talked to my coach about this because we knew that I wasn't going to grow much more afterwards. So this is a conversation that you should also be having with your coach. And then transition into a 2-guard where you're playing off the ball, and then slowly throughout the season move into that point guard position, obviously if your coach is willing to work with you. Now, also going along with that, there's a lot of drills, and this is going to take a lot of time off the court or out of the game, that you need to work on your skills. So before, you were obviously working on your low post skills. You thought you'd be in the low post most of the time. Obviously you've been working on your free throws, because if you're a center, then you're going to get hacked a ton when you're going up for those close shots. So you've already should have a fairly good shot. Now your shot may be a bit slower, but that's okay. We can work on that. Now there's more and more coaches who are focusing on your shooting ability. There's more and more coaches who want you to go 90% of the time from shooting in practice. When you're on your own time, however, what I want you to do to start off, if you're all alone, is to do zigzag style drills. So if you've got a full court, this is absolutely perfect for what you can do. In a zigzag drill, you've probably done this in practice. All you're going to do is essentially cross the ball, one dribble, cross all the way up the court. This is a very simple drill that will help you control that ball, especially when you start having defenders on you. Now, a big skill that takes some centers a while to learn when they're transitioning into a guard is, usually there's no emphasis on this for centers, but there is for guards. And that is, when you're dribbling the ball down the court, centers dribble the ball usually really far ahead and usually pretty high. Even if there's a guard or somebody else defending you, you want to try and have that guard hand out, so that if he tries to reach across that guard hand, you have the time to spin off of him and try and create some more space. This is something that you really need to transition to. And also, try not to dribble the ball standing straight up when you're walking or when you're dribbling down the court. If you've got nobody on you, that's okay. But if you start having defenders on you, the lower you're going to be to try and beat that defender, the better. If your shoulders can get lower than his, you should have the advantage over him in speed. Whether or not you're 4 or 5 inches taller than him, if you can get lower and stay on your toes, you'll be able to change directions faster, and you'll be able to hopefully beat him off that dribble. So going back to that zigzag drill that I was mentioning earlier, when you cross over that ball, some centers, when they turn into guards, they'll just cross over the ball like this, like if they're walking into their crossover. This is something that you need to try and move yourself away from, and what you should be doing is hopping into your crossovers so you can explode off those crossovers a little bit better. And when you can explode off those crossovers, you're going to have a higher chance or higher probability of beating that defender off that dribble. Now, my tip to you for when I transitioned into a guard myself. When I transitioned into a guard, what I like to do was be super aggressive out on the perimeter. And what I mean by that is when you're in the low post, you can be super aggressive. You can pound dribble into your defender and get an easy shot. You can actually do the same out in the perimeter. It's not as an aggressive as position, but you can still be really aggressive out there. And these are some of the moves that I used to do. When I was playing off ball, I would catch that ball, and as soon as I caught it, I would catch it on my inside foot so that I could explode off towards the basket. Now, the benefit to this is if you've got a defender trailing you, you just caught that ball and you start exploding off towards that basket, he's going to be left behind. And then when you start attacking that basket, you can do a hop step in front of him so that now he's behind you. He has to go over your back to block your shot. And now that's a lot harder for him to block, for one, especially if he's just a bit shorter and maybe a bit skinnier than you. But also, that's a nice strong power move, because now when you're attacking that rim, you've done that hop step, that's only one step. You can take one more step after this. You've landed on both feet. So if there's a help defender that comes out from your left side, you can go still one more step towards that right side and have the net protect you from getting blocked. There's so many different moves that you can do off of this as well. So another really great move is when you attack, you can go one dribble, cross, back. So you can go one dribble, cross, back. And now if you've got a defender who was trailing you in the first place, you've done a one dribble attack move. He's now taken 1 to 2 steps towards the net. You've crossed over back, and you've got a nice wide open shot. Now, if you're playing with the ball, if you've got the ball in your hands and you've got yourself a defender who's right here on you, what you can do, you could call a screen. You can go screen, and then you'll have a screen coming up for you. That is one option. However, now if you're playing against a guard and you're still a bit bigger for your position, now you might be getting switched off to somebody who's a lot larger, which could benefit you, because then you can just be like a nice assist to the center who's rolling towards the basket. But if you're looking to create opportunities for yourself, what you can do here, instead of having to call for a screen, is a nice one dribble attack move towards the right side. And you can basically have a whole move set off of this. And this is the move set that I used to use. So I would go and attack, shoulder down, however, not into his chest. So what I mean by that is you're keeping your shoulder down, however, it needs to be above your toes. Why that's important is if you start leaning off into your defender, that's when they start calling it a foul. However, if you have your shoulder down above your knees or above your toes, that is in your own ground. They shouldn't be calling a foul on you for that. So if you can attack, keeping that shoulder above that toe, then you can attack that basket. And if you are truly stronger and just a bit bigger than your defender, you should be able to get to the rim. Now, if he starts playing off of that, he starts playing you a bit looser, allowing you to try and drive, get in front and take that charge. What you need to do now is still have that shoulder down above that toe when you step out. But when you start feeling him, you need to do a spin move off of him, because what's going to happen is he's going to start playing off of you. He's going to step in front and try to take that charge. Well, now he's in no position to move to continue to defend you. So what you need to do is see that happening. As soon as he plants his heels down, you need to do a spin move. You don't want to touch him. So you want to be watching his waist, attacking, see his plant his feet, spin move off, and essentially you've got the whole net to yourself. These are some moves that you can do as a center who's just a bit bigger, who's transitioning into being a guard. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.